Hi guys, UK Guns here. So in this video, I'm just going to briefly talk about shotguns in the UK, what types of shotguns you can own. Now I have kind of touched on these on my other video where I talk about all the different types of firearms and shotguns that you can own in the UK, but I just thought I'd go into a little bit more detail because I didn't really go into much detail about the shotguns in that video. So just a little bit more detail, but it's not going to be a very long video because I have kind of mentioned it in a previous video. So here I've got the three main types of shotguns that you find here in the UK. There is one other type that you'll find as well. Well, there's a couple of others really actually, but the main ones, I'll talk about the others I don't have. But these are the main ones you're going to come across, which is obviously pump action, semi-automatic, and over-under. Now these are all clear, but they do have snap caps in them. So I'll take them out at some point when I show you the action and how they work. Now, there is a couple of other types that you'll get, which one is magazine fed, but as I said in my previous video, magazine fed comes under a different licensing. You can't get magazine fed under the same license of what you can buy all three of these. And you can get, you know, lever action and those kinds of things, but they are much less common. And you can get single barreled or side by side as well. Now these will come under a Section 2 shotgun certificate, which means that they cannot have a capacity exceeding 2 rounds in the magazine. So commonly they're referred to as a 2+1. 1 round in the chamber, 2 rounds in a magazine or a magazine tube, such as this. They cannot have more than that. If they have a higher capacity than that, 2+1, then they come under a firearms license under Section 1 of the Firearms Act, and they require a different licensing and a totally different legal justification of why you would want to possess that type of shotgun. Now, if you're just into your clay pigeon shooting or hunting, game hunting, that kind of thing with shotgun, then a Section 2 shotgun certificate is probably the route you're going to go down, and therefore one of these shotguns might be the one that you're looking at. Maybe not the specific model, but this action type. And each one of them has positives and negatives. And really, I think it comes down to personal preference. And I just want to make it clear, this is my opinion and my preference. Lots of people, I'm sure, will disagree and have their own opinions and their own preferences, and that's fine. So, what's best for what? Well, again, that's a subject for a lot of debate, really. So I don't want to get into that too much. But certainly, the most common type of shotgun, I would say, in the UK is the Overunder. And that's for pretty much any discipline. If it's clay pigeon shooting, if it's hunting, the most common type of shotgun you're going to see people carrying around for those activities is the Overunder. So this one has ejectors. Again, these are snap caps. So this has ejectors, so it ejects out when you break it open, and then it's a case of just dropping in your next 2 shells, closing it up, and then it's ready to go again. It does have a safety, and this is a single trigger, so 1 trigger to fire off both barrels. Some Overunders and side-by-sides and those kinds of guns will have 2 triggers, 1 for each barrel. Sometimes they might even have a barrel selector on here as well, but this one doesn't. That's literally just a safety. So that's your Over-Under. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. The positives of this gun are that it's tried and tested. I mean, these have existed for hundreds of years, and you know they work really, really well. They almost never fail because you're not going to get a stoppage or things like that. You know, might get a mechanical problem somewhere, but they're pretty reliable. They're pretty accurate, and they're great for beginners. If you're getting someone into the sport, they're a good option because they're simple and easy to use. They don't require any sort of finicky, you know, loading into magazine tubes or, you know, cocking it or pumping the action or anything along those lines. So they're great for beginners. So yeah, they're a pretty good all-round gun. But of course, they only have 2 rounds that they can hold. Both of these can technically hold 3, but of course that's 1 in the chamber. But they can technically hold 3, so that does give you a bit of a bonus. So next we've got semi-automatic. So again, I'll just take the snap cap out. So this semi-automatic, what this means is that once you load a round into the chamber, you then have 2 rounds in your magazine tube in here, and then when you pull the trigger, it would cycle, so it would come back on its own, ejects out the empty case, and then load the next round into the chamber. So you can essentially, you just pull that trigger 3 times, bang, 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 and you can fire all 3 shots. The drawbacks are, it's not quite as quick as firing an over-under. You can fire both barrels on over-under very, very quickly. There's this one, there is a slight delay in the action cycling. It's not much, and you can still fire it pretty quickly, but you know, it's worth bearing in mind. And you can get stoppages, especially if you fire it quickly. You know, the cartridge can get stuck or can get jammed in some other way, or when the empty cartridge is being ejected, it can sometimes get caught in the ejection opening and those kinds of things. You can get malfunctions with this type of gun, but they are very accurate. They are a lot of fun, and they're pretty good sort of all-rounders, really, the semi-autos. I would say these are kind of the second most popular behind the over-unders and the double barrels. If people haven't got one of those, it's one of these. The semi-autos are very, very popular. They're pretty versatile. You can get sights put on them and all kinds of other things. You can get ones with pistol grips and stuff like that. So they're pretty versatile, some customization that you can do with them as well. Personally, I use this for clay pigeon shooting. This is my main sort of clay pigeon shooting gun, and I really, really enjoy it. It has a threaded barrel, so I can put chokes and stuff into it, and it's a really, really good bit of kit. That's a Hatsan Escort Magnum. The over-under is a Landber over-under. It's a bit of an old sort of, old gun really. I'm not sure what year it was manufactured. I bought it second hand quite a long time ago. But it's a workhorse that's never ever let me down. And it's, like I say, it's great. If I'm getting people into clay pigeon shooting, that's usually the gun that I let them start off with. Unless, they're really, really nervous or whatever, I may start off, I've got a 410 over-under. I may start them on a 410 just for the lower recoil, but otherwise that's what I tend to start people off with because it's just a lot easier. And then the last one that I've got here is a pump action. So again, I'm just going to take out the snap cap. There you go. So what this does is very similar to a semi-automatic, but you're cycling the action manually yourself by pumping the slide like that. It works in the same way. You've got a magazine tube, so you load rounds. I can show you actually the snap cap. You load rounds into the magazine tube and then load them up. I don't think I actually picked it up. There you go. Load it up into the chamber. Now that didn't pick up the snap cap because the snap caps are plastic rims. They're not really designed for semi-autos and pump actions. They're more designed for the over-under style. You can get metal snap caps that are better for these types of guns. But yeah, so that's how you use this gun. Now, these are less popular. You do see some people having them. Pump actions do get used for things like practical shotgun because they're a little bit more reliable than semi-autos. You tend to get less stoppages in a pump action than you do in a semi-auto. But again, it depends on the quality of the semi-auto. There are some really good high-quality semi-autos out there. So I know, semi-auto is still very popular in practical shotgun, but you do see lots of pump actions in practical shotgun as well. I think, that's the reasons for it. This is one that, you might want to use for practical shotgun, having a pistol grip and a sight rail. I've got a red dot on here. This is a 2+1 though, that's the only downside. So, but you can get this exact gun. This is a Huglu Atrox. You can get this exact gun in a 7+1, so an 8-shot gun, which is perfect for practical shotgun. So I just got it in the 2+1 because then it's on a section 2 rather than a section 1. So those are the sort of main types of shotguns you get in the UK really, and it's really personal preference for you as to what you prefer. So the pump action is a little bit more reliable than semi-auto, but still 3-shot. It's also a lot of fun. I mean, you've got to admit, the whole pump action thing just feels and looks pretty cool, and something that I really enjoy. Semi-auto, is maybe a little bit more practical than a pump action because you're not having to manually pump it yourself, and that's why I prefer it. I've used not this one for clay pigeon shooting, but I had an old Hulu Atrox that didn't have the pistol grip or the sight rail. It was more like this one, but it was a pump action. I did use that for clay pigeon shooting, and it was a pretty good gun for that. But when I got the Hatsan, I started using that, and I prefer that. So that's what I use most of the time. And then, of course, say the Overunders, well, you can't really fault them. They're just one of those. I think everybody who owns shotguns probably started off with an Overunder or has one in their cabinet, even if they've moved on to other styles of guns such as these, because they're pretty reliable and they're good to use. They're good all-rounders for kind of everything that you want to do with a shotgun. And as I say, they're good for newcomers to the sport as well. So there we go. So that's just my kind of opinion, really. A little bit longer than I was expecting to spend on it, but hopefully you found it useful. Feel free to leave a comment or give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want. And as always, thanks for watching.